All right, so good afternoon, everyone. Yay! All right, who's got lunch coma? You got lunch coma? Just crawl up under one of these blankets and take a nap or something here. They told me I was at 110, and I'm going, yeah, that's not a good slot, but you take what you can get. So, welcome to the future of threat hunting. My name is Tim Singletary. I'm Director for Emerging Technology Solutions for Peraton. As part of my job, I help manage our corporate, our corporate IRADs, internal research and development, which includes a lot of cyber solutions. As just for your information, I do have a cyber background. I've been doing cyber for 35 years now. I started off as a Army infantry. And if those of you that are infantry, you can do any job in the Army. Ended up getting slotted in a IT position my last 5 years, started in cyber, blah, 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 blah. Here I am now today. So it's been a great career so far. I have done a lot in the cyber. After I got out of the military, I worked at the CERT over in Europe. I was a senior analyst over there, so I have a lot of background in looking at threat hunting, even back in the day when threat hunting really wasn't even called threat hunting. There's no generals in the audience, is it? No? Okay. Because I remember back in the day when the I Love You virus came out, and as a senior analyst, I had to go explain to the general, nobody loves you that much. Why did you click on that email? But, so like I said, I've been doing this for a while. This is the solution session. I wanted to start off just talking about threat hunting in general and some of the issues that we have out there from a cyber perspective, and not just necessarily about some of the stuff that we've actually done. And I end up being a walker sometimes, so I will try and turn that on in case I start walking. So it's a new battlefield out there. Everybody knows that now. So we've been dealing with cyber for how long, and yet we still haven't figured out how to have a complete picture of the enterprise, our organizational-wide cyber picture. And that is a huge problem from my perspective. And I have been preaching this for years and years and years, and can't get anybody to listen to me, but people are starting to listen now. And when I talk about some of the solutions that we built here, you'll see that my approach to this is you have to have complete data in order to be able to respond to cyber events. You guys probably know that you see data silos everywhere because these organizations, whether it's DoD, federal, state, any of the organizations I go into, people build these silos of data. They build their own little empires. They don't want to share data. They don't want to share tools. They don't want to share anything. And that's how you end up getting exploited. At that time they go, oh, I don't know how this happened. Well, I know how it happened. You're not sharing information amongst each other. So it's a new battlefield out there. And cyber is definitely changing the rules. Small groups of hackers now can destabilize an entire nation, an entire society out there. Look at some of the misinformation campaigns and some of the other stuff that are actually going on. But how many people are actually really monitoring that and sharing information across different organizations and different groups in order to have a cohesive picture of the actual threat landscape? And that's one of the problems that I've been trying to solve for a while. It's out there. Our large nations, you're fine, sorry, they are no longer guaranteed security. Even as the U.S., as a superpower, we are not guaranteed. I mean, how easy could it be for a threat actor to infiltrate, just our DOE, Department of Energy, and take out an entire grid system with the click of a button? It's fairly easy to do because I used to do that stuff. But before I came to Peraton, I used to do a lot of offensive stuff and penetration testing and stuff like that. So it's a fairly simple process. Guerrilla warfare, guys, it's crazy out there. So we're not just talking about nation states. We're not just talking about threat actors that are out there. We're talking about even internally to the U.S., the threat actors that are whether it's political, hacktivists, environmentalists. It's just crazy when you start looking at the amount of threats out there that we're actually faced with today. And even at the DoD level, I see a lot of attacks that are happening to some of the DoD orgs that you traditionally wouldn't necessarily think that you would see, whether it's a hacktivist group or a political group. And what people have to understand, the reason that they're trying to do this is they're going to use you for a pivot point. Think about this from a political landscape perspective, where if I can get in there and get into a DoD and Army environment and I can turn around and launch some type of disinformation campaign against a political candidate, what does it look like? It looks like the Army doesn't like the next latest, greatest person that's running for president or for whatever. So there's a lot of threats out there, and we have to start addressing those threats. Millions of data streams. You guys know this. I'm working with a client right now. It's not a DoD, it's a state. But when I was talking with them Monday about their infrastructure and how much data are we expected to see, they told me up to 10 million events an hour. And I'm sitting there going, okay, that sounds about right. And this is just for one single state. So when you think about this at the DoD level, the federal level, how many events are you actually seeing? How many of those events are getting correlated? How many of those events are being mapped correctly to the actual threat that could be posed to the organization? And obviously missed IOCs. You miss one, you're done. And for those maybe not familiar, IOC is indicator of compromise. So whether that's a firewall alert, that's a proxy alert, a SIM alert, all the data that you're getting, you miss one of those and you just missed a very large event, or possibly have missed a large event. So being able to correlate all this information, bring it all into a single threat platform, is something that I've been working on for the last 5 years, and we'll talk about that here in a few moments. So the adversaries playbook. Hey guys, I don't know if you know this, the bad guys know what we do for a living. And here's the thing, how many of you work 24 hours a day? Because I don't, I can't. But they do, whether they're working as groups, whether they're working with other groups, these guys know when we are monitoring our networks, when we are most vulnerable to our networks. How many of you guys are going to take 4th of July holiday? Guess what? It's one of the busiest days for attacks because they know that we're not monitoring. They know we're not paying attention. We're all out having hamburgers and this, that, and the other, and we're not going to be able to respond as fast. So how long does it take for an attack to hit you and for you to respond in order for you to deter the attack? Do you have time to call somebody in? An hour, 2 hours, 3 hours? You're done at that point. It's literally a matter of seconds, if not minutes at best, that you need to be able to react to these things in order for you to deter that type of attack. IOC-based detection is reactive as opposed to proactive. If we do not become proactive when it comes to threat hunting, we are never going to get ahead of the bad guys. I mean, it's a challenge as it is to try and get ahead of these guys. We've got to work 24/7, 365 in order to do this. But we have to stop being reactive. We have to start being proactive and actually hunting for the threats that are really coming after us. Behavioral analytics. For those of you that are familiar with intrusion detection systems, this is probably one of the most popular forms of intrusion detection, is behavioral analytics. And I used to love it when I was doing pen testing and I saw someone was using behavioral analytics, because you just change your behavior because they're looking for a pattern. And as long as you modify that pattern, then you're not going to get picked up by the IDSs. They'll never see you coming in. So we have to get away from behavioral analytics. One, because it's easy to get around, and two, because there is a ton of false positives. When we get false positives, what do we start having? Analyst fatigue. Anybody here an analyst? You guys get tired, don't you? You get tired of looking at spreadsheets. You get tired of looking at all these indicators that are flowing in faster than you can read them. And you get analyst fatigue. It just happens. So how do we make the analyst fatigue go away or help you in that? And at the same time, give you that big picture threat landscape of what's really going on within your environment. And again, we'll talk about that here in a moment. You've got tools out there. We all have tools. I mean, come on, look around you in this event here. Everybody here has a cyber tool they're trying to sell you. Well, how do you integrate all of these tools? How do you bring all these tools together? How do you make sense of the data? Because you're going to have one tool that gives you data in a particular format. You're going to have another tool that gives you the data in a different format. And sometimes it's a matter of just a spelling difference. It could be a field difference. It could be all kinds of different things. So that's another issue. So everybody here probably has or seen seams and SOARs and all the XDRs and cool stuff that are actually out there. And I won't name any companies in specific here. They're great for doing what they do, but they're not perfect by any means. Because a lot of times they can't consume particular pieces of data. Or if they do consume it, they put it in the wrong field or in the wrong schema. And then once it's put into that wrong field, you just missed a major attack because of that. So these are all issues as an industry that we're trying to fix and trying to address. You guys have probably heard of STIX 2.1, Structured Threat Intelligence format, which is an industry standard now. And companies are starting to come around to that, but not everyone is. Because again, everybody likes having their own little empire when it comes to data, and it's an issue. Analysts with different skill sets. So the solution that I'll talk real quick about when I get there, we put out at CISA. The CISA Threat Hunt Group is using our tool right now amongst other customers. And it was funny because I sat down with them for 8 months. I sat down with their tier 1 guys. I sat down with their tier 2, their tier 3, their threat hunters, their malware team. And I sat there and said, what do you do on a daily basis? And I watched and I recorded every single thing that they did from the time they walked in the building to the time that they walked out. And that's how I started building my solution, is building it based on the job roles that were actually out there and what the analyst really needed to do in order to complete the mission of defending that organization. But you do get these analysts with different skill levels. So you can have someone that comes straight out of college or straight out of boot camp or A school, whatever you guys are doing right now. And he may have a year's experience, he may have 5 years experience. But if I took that same IOC, because I did this, and said, here's an indicator of compromise, just came into your environment, you go work this, you go work this. Come back to me when you're done. One comes back in an hour, the other one comes back in 4 hours. Totally different results. Why? Why are the analysts coming up? That's because their skill levels, their experience levels. So how do you level the playing field at the analyst level? Because if you can't level that playing field at that tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 level, then by the time it gets to a threat hunter or incident responder or a malware hunter, then you're going to have bad information. So these are all problems that as an industry we're trying to address. And again, part of my solution actually addresses some of this. AI and ML. Man, how many AI companies are here? Because that's the latest and greatest buzzword. And I'll admit it, we have AI and ML in our solution. AI and ML is not perfect. It can be contaminated. And you have to be extremely careful about that. And you can go out and do the research. Hey, go to ChatGPT-5 and go, hey, how many times has the Chinese infiltrated an AI company and contaminated their data? And it's going to give you probably a scary answer, because even they have been compromised with data. And it doesn't take much. I don't have to actually break into their systems. I just have to feed it a whole bunch of prompts with a whole bunch of bad data in order to start poisoning that AI and ML in order for it to give an analyst or a person the wrong answer. So some of these public AI models that are actually out there, you have to be extremely careful about how you implement those. I have customers now, because we do have our own AI and ML, it's all based off of work that we have done custom. It's trained on cyber data only, and it's been an internal training, so it's not a public data set. So we do have some control over how ours is actually trained, but I have customers that are going, no, Tim, we don't want your AI. We want to put Copilot in there, or Gemini in there, or ChatGPT. And I just sit there and go, why? Why is that any better than something that we've been training for the government for 5 years on cyber data? They still go with it. So sometimes you have to do what the customer wants. So what are the principles of modern threat hunting? We have to change our process here. We have to be proactive, seek the threats, stop being reactive. You're never going to get ahead of any of the bad guys as long as we're being reactive. You have to be proactive in doing this. You have to be able to respond in minutes, if not seconds, as opposed to 4 hours, 1 hour, a day, 24 hours. It doesn't work like that anymore. If you cannot respond in minutes, then most likely you're already responding too late. So we have to find a way to do that. You have to correlate across multiple tool sets with multiple formats, multiple schemas, and you have to be able to do that in real time, not pulling some data in from a sim or a SOAR, sending it over to somebody, letting them convert it to this, and now you're already done, by the time you did that. And you have to make sure that you are sharing your data with your other analysts. This one. Anybody here from CISA? No, good. I'll talk bad about them for a few minutes. One of the problems that we had with CISA when I first went in there was the fact that they had their tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 malware guys, threat hunters. None of them talked together on a day-to-day basis. They didn't share data. They didn't share tools. They didn't talk with each other. And I'm going, what are you guys doing? You're never going to solve this problem as long as you continue to do this. But you guys, I know you know this, and some of us in the back of your mind going, yeah, we're never going to share data. Well, it's because this commander or this person that's in charge of this director or whatever has built his empire and he wants to leave a legacy, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, well, get over it, guy. You got to get over that. So we actually built a platform. We convinced CISA to do a pilot and a trial with us, and allowed us to have access to their data. We let them keep their little data stores. We just got access to it, and we started building out a system. And when I first demoed this to them, on average, their analyst was taking 4 hours to respond to a single indicator of compromise. When we rolled out our pilot and released it to them, we reduced that 4 hours to 15 minutes. Not bad. Still, by my standards, not fast enough, but it was better than the 4 hours that they were actually doing before, and we've gotten much more efficient at that. But then at the same time, you have to understand, we just reduced analyst fatigue. That's 4 hours he didn't have to do of copy, paste, research, blah, reports, this, that, and the other. We are literally doing all that stuff for him now in the platform that we actually have for them. And I know I'm running out of time here, but I could talk for hours about this stuff. So what's out there? So we have this solution called Threatboard. It's a unified operational dashboard, and this term is overused, and I hate it, but it is a single pane of glass. It is not a SIM. It is not a SOAR. It is not an IDS. It is not a firewall. It's none of those things. It is a true threat management platform. I am agnostic to technology. When I walk into a customer's environment, I don't, ask them how much money you have. I ask them, hey, what does your technology stack look like? Give me whatever you're using. So if you're using IDSs, firewalls, I don't care what version, we're going to start with that. We're going to ingest that. We're going to start working with that information, and then we're going to identify gaps that you may have in your solutioning and maybe make some recommendations. But that's where I start. Second thing I ask them is, where's your data stores at? Your historical data. This is one thing that everybody keeps missing. Where are your old reports? Where's your old CSV files of all the data over the last 10, 15, 20 years of you being a cyber organization? Where's that stored at? Because before I turn Threatboard on and hand it over to their analysts, I'm going to ingest that data. I'm going to run my NLP on it. I'm going to pull out critical information. I'm going to run my AI against it. And then I'm going to put that in the back-end data lake that I'm looking at So now as new incoming events come in, it actually gets correlated with past historical events. And when we did this for CISA the first time, the somewhat funny story was one of the branch chiefs called me and goes, Tim, this stuff's crap. It's showing me alerts from 12 months ago, and we just turned it on a week ago. And I go, yeah, you got popped 12 months ago. Just a new indicator was that data was being exfilled, but look, what we're showing you is how you got exfilled. We're showing you 12 months ago where the attack really actually happened through our correlation engine and the way that we actually do this. So it is a really good system, and I'm running out of time quick. We do automatic ingestion. We do not have a solution yet that are a partner or anyone that we have not been able to ingest their data. We've even had some very old technologies. Sure, I got to get my guys to write an API or some other type of ingest for it, but we will pull that data in. Most everyone uses REST APIs now, so it makes it pretty easy. And then we also partner with a lot of other vendors that are actually out there, whether it's Vectra, Neo4j, CrowdStrike. There's a lot of them that we partner with now, so they give us their REST APIs. They give us the down and dirty info of how to extract the data out of what's really coming from their solutions. And at first they thought we were competition. They quickly realized, no, you're not competition. You're building this unified threat platform is what you're doing, and you're making us look better because it looks like we're actually being more successful. So that's really what we have. And we also have predictive insights to preempt attacks. So we map everything to the MITRE framework. So when that indicator of compromise hits that system, before an analyst ever opens it, I've already gone out to Shodan, Alien Vault, all the different open source places, and grabbed all the data he needs to know to make a decision on this ticket before he even opened it up. So we're getting rid of that analyst fatigue, where we're sending it up to the next level, and then we have graphical interfaces that show them graphically, hey, this attack came in, this is outbound traffic, this is exfil traffic. So we're just making it easier for an analyst to really understand what's in front of him, so they're not standing there or sitting there staring at spreadsheets or some screens, I almost said a word, that are difficult to interpret as far as the data that they're actually seeing. So what are we doing? So we're able to reduce our detection, lower your analyst fatigue. Here's important, efficiencies. We are making the organizations efficient. And when we first started deploying this, we're in CISA, we're in DC3 now, we're in a couple of states right now. Analysts were going, hey, Tim, you're getting rid of my job. No, I'm not. I'm not getting rid of your job. I'm making you efficient. But now this tier 1 guy, you can start getting trained as a tier 2 guy because you have the time to do that. Go sit behind a tier 2 guy and learn what his job. Tier 2 guy, go talk to a tier 3 guy. Go talk to a malware guy. Start learning and training your cyber force the right way. Make sure that you have that staff, because we all complain that we don't have enough cyber staff. So it's not I'm getting rid of someone, I'm making you more efficient so that you can excel at your career. And when they think about it that way, they go, hey, yeah, we kind of like this. It's a good idea. Vendor lock. This is something, and I have to spend a minute on it here, and I'm already over time. We break the cycle of vendor lock. How many of you guys are in an organization where, and I'll just use a name, I'm not picking on anyone, so you're a Cisco shop. You got Cisco firewalls, routers, blah, 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 blah. It's great. Cisco's a great company, but you've been using them for the last 10 years. So now that someone else came out with the latest and greatest IDS or firewall, you can't go to that new latest and greatest firewall because you're a Cisco shop. You can't retrain your analysts. You can't change your workflows, your work processes. That's a lot of work just to implement this new firewall that's actually out there. Threatboard, the solution we have gets you away from that, because I don't care who the vendor is. Your analysts are still going to be looking at my platform, looking at my ingest and my single pane of glass. You got the next latest and greatest firewall came in, it's an API call for me, and that's it. The data's in the back end. Your analysts don't have to be retrained. You don't have to change your workflows, your processes. None of that information has to change. But now they're even more effective. So you can get out of that vendor lock as an organization and start looking at some of the cool stuff that's actually coming out, because there are some cool stuff that's out there. We already talked about ingesting historical data and higher resilience through early disruption from out there. So what are the implications here? Shifting from reactive operations to active threat hunting. View your network as a living contested space, because that's what it really is. And speed and visibility now give us decisive advantages. If I can see the bad guys are coming in and I can react as fast as they are reacting, it makes us a better organization. It helps us defend what we're here to do. And then the last thing, and this is my little teaser slide here, as I do Coming to a Theater to You. What do you think about fusing cyber, SIGINT, HUMINT all together with tactical? So now I can give you what's happening on the social media side, what's happening on the cyber side, what's happening on the SIGINT side, what's happening on the HUMINT, and we tie all this data together so that when a commander is going out to the battlefield, now he knows, hey, we're getting ready to launch something. What's the social media folks talking about? What's happening in that space? Are we seeing any activity? Are hacktivists talking about this, that, and the other? It completes that picture, and that's something that I'm working on right now, as well as putting in our agentic AI, which is another AI solution that we're building into this. Gives you greater context, accuracy, ability to connect digital patterns to real-world actors, active actors, and helps you disrupt those threats before they materialize by being able to do that. And I am out of time. Sorry, guy, I know I went over. Wait, who's next? Whoever's next, I'm sorry. But anyway, so again, I know that wasn't a lot. I didn't show you any screen captures. It is a really dynamic platform. If you guys want to come up to Salon G, you can see the different interfaces that we have. So I have workflows built out for like a tier 1, a tier 2 guy. You guys are all looking at the same data, but different screens that allow you to do your job faster and easier and more efficiently. But everybody's still working on the same data. So when a tier 1 guy makes a change to a ticket, a threat hunter automatically sees it in real time. You know, that's some pretty powerful stuff when we're talking about threat hunting. So that's kind of where I'm at. Again, sorry I took a little bit more extra time. Happy to stand by and talk to anyone if you want to talk afterwards. I do know there's somebody coming in behind me here, so you can either catch me out here or come up to Salon G, and I can give you some more information about Threat Board and some of the cool things that we're doing. Kill the mics. There we go. Thank you. Appreciate you showing up.